There's something happening inside you right now. A silent war, a delicate balance, a constant conversation between cells, deciding what lives, what dies, and what heals. You never hear it. You never feel it. But without it, you wouldn't survive a single day. Tonight, we're stepping deeper into that hidden world, where biology meets mystery, where every breath you take is guarded by intelligence older than thought itself. Get comfortable. This story lives within you, and it's only just beginning.
All thanks to cells that you've never seen, that you've never heard, that you may not have known existed until tonight. And now you do. They are part of you. They are always with you. And they are waiting, not with fear, but with confidence. Because the immune system is not anxious. It is prepared. The immune system is a master of balance. It must walk a narrow path, strong enough to fight infection, yet gentle enough not to harm the body it protects. And that becomes even more delicate once memory is involved. Because memory is powerful, and with power comes risk. When your body remembers something dangerous, it responds faster. But what if it misremembers? What if it learns the wrong lesson? Or worse, what if it mistakes a part of you for something foreign? This is where we meet the thin line between protection and destruction, where the adaptive immune system, so intelligent and precise, can sometimes become misguided. Let's begin with a simple truth. Your immune system is trained to tolerate you. During the development of B and T cells, especially in the bone marrow and thymus, new cells are tested. Each one is shown bits of your own proteins. If they react too strongly, if they see you as the enemy, they are destroyed. This process is called central tolerance. It's the immune system's first act of mercy, its first act of wisdom. But it's not perfect. Some self-reactive cells escape. And that's where a second layer of control comes in. Peripheral tolerance. This is the immune system's way of keeping those stray cells in check. Maybe by silencing them. Maybe by requiring two separate activation signals before they can respond. Or maybe by surrounding them with regulatory T cells. Immune peacekeepers that prevent overreaction. All of this, just to protect you from yourself. Most of the time, it works. But sometimes, something goes wrong. A virus may trigger a response so strong that it breaks tolerance. Or a molecular mimic, a pathogen that looks just enough like your own tissue, may confuse the system, and the immune response, intended to protect, turns inward. This is autoimmunity. Diseases like lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, type 1 diabetes, and multiple sclerosis. They are not failures of strength. They are failures of recognition. The immune system remembers, but it remembers something it shouldn't. It fights with precision, but it has the wrong target. Even in these moments, the body is not cruel. It is not malfunctioning in the way a machine might. It is simply acting on the information it has. That's what makes the immune system so human. It is intelligent, yes, but also vulnerable. And yet, even in autoimmunity, there are checks and balances, treatments that retrain the immune system, signals that restore tolerance, and research that continues to uncover how memory can be shaped, guided, and sometimes softened. Because memory is not a rigid wall. It is more like a stream. It can be redirected. And in that flexibility, there is hope. Now let's return to what happens when immune memory works well. You've had a virus before. The flu, perhaps. And for days, your body fought it. You had a fever. You slept. You waited. But now, months or years later, you're exposed to that same virus again. Except this time, nothing happens. Your memory cells were already watching. They responded before the virus could even establish itself. They cut the infection short, maybe before you even noticed. This is not luck. It's memory in motion. It's also the reason booster shots are sometimes needed. Not because the immune system forgets, but because some threats change their shape. Viruses mutate, new strains appear, and the memory your body holds, may no longer be a perfect match. So a booster reintroduces the shape, updates the library, refines the memory. It's like giving your immune system a new photograph of a familiar face. And it's ready again. There's something else, too. A phenomenon called original antigenic sin. It sounds ominous, but it's simply this. The first version of a pathogen your body encounters can shape all future responses to it. If you meet a virus in childhood, your immune system remembers that specific shape. Even if the virus evolves later, your body may still rely on the old memory. Even if it's not the perfect match, it's a reminder that the immune system is not just intelligent. It's deeply shaped by its history. Just like us, every encounter leaves an impression. Some are helpful, some are limiting, but all of them matter. That's why childhood is such an important time for immune development. The infections we fight, the vaccines we receive, the microbes we live with, they shape the repertoire of memory we carry into adulthood. And that memory doesn't just protect. It also teaches the immune system how to respond calmly, to learn that not every foreign molecule is dangerous, that not every trigger demands war. This balance is especially important in the gut, where trillions of bacteria live peacefully inside you. If the immune system reacted to all of them, you'd be in a constant state of inflammation. So memory becomes selective. It remembers what matters and learns to ignore what doesn't. That's part of the quiet brilliance of adaptive immunity. Not just the power to attack, but the wisdom to hold back. Even now, your immune system is remembering, cataloging what it sees, marking what is friend and what is foe, deciding not just how to protect you, but how to not overprotect you. This is what makes the immune system not just a defender, but a listener. And in this deep listening, it becomes something more. A historian, a librarian, a silent chronicler of your biological life. Its memory is not stored in words, but in cells, not in thoughts, but in shapes. Still, the story is written. And one day, when you meet that shape again, days, months, years later, your immune system will turn the page. It will recognize the threat, and it will act with the confidence of memory. You'll never even know, but it will. We're nearly ready now to close part 3. As we move forward, we'll explore how your immune system interacts with your environment, how it protects the delicate balance between friend and foe, and what happens when inflammation, once helpful, becomes chronic. Because not every battle is loud, not every memory is perfect, and not every reaction ends when it should. Sometimes, the immune system struggles to find silence again.
And when it doesn't, the body suffers in ways we're only beginning to understand. In part 4, we'll explore this complex relationship between immunity and inflammation, between healing and harm, between defense and disease. But tonight, as this chapter draws to a close, you can rest in this simple truth. Your immune system remembers. It grows. It learns. And even in your quietest moments, its memory stands watch, always listening, always ready, always with you. There's a quiet power in inflammation, a heat that signals healing, a swelling that protects, a redness that speaks. I've noticed. I'm responding. Inflammation is not a mistake. It is the language of your immune system in action. It opens blood vessels, calls in defenders, warms the tissue, changes the rhythm of your biology, all to focus on one thing: repair. But sometimes, the fire doesn't fade, the call doesn't stop, and the immune system, so good at knowing when to begin, forgets how to end. This is where inflammation shifts from helpful to harmful, from acute to chronic, from a response to a disease. It's not loud. It doesn't scream, but it lingers, silently reshaping the terrain of your body. To understand this, we must return to the basics. Inflammation begins when something is injured, infected, or out of place. It can be a cut, a virus, a burned finger, even a twisted ankle. The immune system detects this damage or intrusion. Molecules are released, like histamine, prostaglandins, and cytokines, that widen blood vessels and attract immune cells. White blood cells enter the area. They fight infection, clear debris, signal repair. You might feel warmth, redness, swelling, pain. But all of these are signs of a process doing exactly what it was designed to do. Inflammation, in this form, is good. It's focused. It's temporary. It resolves. But in some cases, the resolution never comes. The system stays on, or turns off incompletely, or is triggered again and again by something it can't fully remove. That's when inflammation becomes chronic. And this, too, is part of your immune symphony, a part that whispers instead of roars. But it is no less important. Chronic inflammation can be subtle. A few immune cells here, a few signals there. But over time, it changes the tissue. It exhausts the repair systems. It wears away at the body's rhythm. And what once protected you now begins to damage you. You may not even know it's happening. There's no fever, no clear infection, just a background noise. Fatigue, joint aches, brain fog, digestive issues. Little things scattered across time. But beneath those symptoms, the immune system is still singing. Only now, it's stuck in one verse. Let's look at where this happens and why. In diseases like rheumatoid arthritis, the joints become battlegrounds. The immune system mistakenly attacks the synovium, the lining of the joints. Inflammatory cells flood in. Cytokines like TNF-alpha and interleukin-6 drive the process. Cartilage is worn away. Pain becomes constant. And the immune memory, meant to protect, keeps repeating the pattern. In the gut, we see this in conditions like Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis. The body treats its own intestinal lining as if it were an invader. Inflammation becomes chronic. Tissue becomes damaged. The delicate ecosystem of the microbiome is disrupted. And still, the immune system persists. Not because it wants to destroy, but because it believes it's helping. In asthma, inflammation affects the airways, triggered by allergens, pollution, or stress. Immune cells release mediators that tighten the bronchial tubes. The body is trying to protect itself, but the reaction makes breathing harder. Even in the brain, chronic inflammation can take root. In neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's, microglia, the brain's immune cells, become overactive. They release inflammatory molecules that, over time, damage neurons instead of saving them. This slow burn, this smoldering inflammation, can last for years. And it's not just about disease. Even lifestyle, the quiet choices of daily life, can influence inflammation. Poor sleep, chronic stress, highly processed food, inactivity. All of these can nudge the immune system toward imbalance. Not in dramatic ways, but gently, consistently. And in that consistency, the system begins to shift. A little more inflammation here, a little less resolution there. And over time, the symphony drifts out of tune. But here's the beauty. This system is not fixed. It's responsive. It can be guided. It can return to balance. Because just as there are cells that initiate inflammation, there are also cells that resolve it. These are the pro-resolving mediators. Molecules like resolvins, protectins, and marazins. They don't fight pathogens. They don't destroy tissue. Instead, they call off the fight. They clean up the battlefield. They signal peace. Your body doesn't just know how to fight. It knows how to forgive. The immune system is capable of great aggression, but also great mercy. And understanding this dual nature is the key to understanding chronic illness. Sometimes, the fire needs help to go out. Sometimes, the memory needs to be rewritten. Sometimes, the symphony needs a new conductor. And sometimes, the inflammation isn't even about the immune system itself. It's about allergies. When your body mistakes harmless things for danger. Pollen, dust, peanuts, cat dander. These are not threats. But to a sensitized immune system, they appear as invaders. Mast cells release histamine. Blood vessels dilate. The airway constricts. The skin reacts. It's a false alarm. But the response is real. And again, memory is involved. Once your immune system has decided something is a threat, it remembers, even if it's wrong. So the same precision that protects you from disease can also cause seasonal sneezing, peanut anaphylaxis, or red, itchy skin. The immune system never acts randomly, but it can act inaccurately. And that, too, is part of the story. We are not machines. We are organisms, complex, adaptive, and imperfect. And our immune system, as brilliant as it is, sometimes overreacts, sometimes holds on too long, sometimes responds when it should remain silent. But it can learn, it can shift, it can heal, because inflammation is not the enemy. It is a signal, a call to attention, a cry that something is out of balance. And in that cry is also the possibility of calm. We'll explore how the body resolves inflammation, the role of the nervous and endocrine systems in calming immune activity, and how lifestyle, sleep, stress, nutrition, movement shapes immune peace. Inflammation begins with a spark, but it ends, when it ends well, with a whisper, a soft closing of the gates, a cool wind after the fire.
A shift from urgency to restoration. And that shift is not passive. It's not simply what happens when the danger is gone. It is active, orchestrated, deliberate. The immune system doesn't just fight. It calls for truce. It begins with molecules known as pro-resolving mediators. These are not the loud, inflammatory messengers. They are the calm ones, made from omega-3 fatty acids and other lipid sources. They include resolvins, protectins, and marazins. Their role is not to attack, but to guide the healing. They stop the migration of new immune cells to the site. They tell macrophages to start clearing debris. They reduce swelling. They help rebuild tissue. And perhaps most beautifully, they silence the cytokine symphony, not by breaking the instruments, but by changing the song. Inflammation becomes resolution. The storm gives way to stillness. And this resolution is just as important as the response itself, because an immune system that cannot turn off is one that cannot fully heal. But resolution doesn't happen in isolation. It's guided by other systems, systems that speak their own languages, but understand the immune system deeply. The first is the nervous system, specifically the vagus nerve, a long, wandering nerve that connects your brain to your heart, lungs, and digestive system. It carries messages in both directions, from body to brain, and brain to body, and one of its most powerful roles is in controlling inflammation. This is called the cholinergic anti-inflammatory pathway. When the vagus nerve is active, when it senses calm, safety, rest, it releases signals that suppress the production of inflammatory cytokines. It tells the immune system, you can relax now. The danger has passed, and the immune system listens. This is why practices like deep breathing, meditation, and gentle movement can affect not just your mood, but your inflammation. They activate the vagus nerve. They shift the nervous system from fight or flight into rest and digest. And that shift softens the immune response, not because it's weak, but because it's wise. The second major influence comes from the endocrine system, your hormones. When your body is under stress, your adrenal glands release cortisol, a hormone that, among many roles, dampens immune activity. It prevents the immune system from overreacting. It limits inflammation. It helps maintain balance. But here's the paradox. Short bursts of cortisol are helpful. They protect. But chronic stress, the kind that stretches for weeks, months, years, can disrupt this balance. At first, it might suppress the immune response. You get sick more often. Wounds heal slowly. But over time, the system becomes resistant. The immune cells stop responding to cortisol, and inflammation rises again. Now, the stress is still there, but the brakes no longer work. It's as if the immune system forgets how to listen. So once again, we return to the rhythm of balance. Not too much force, not too much silence, just enough. at the right time, and then a return to peace. And this peace is not found only in medicine. It lives in your everyday choices. Let's look at a few, not with pressure or urgency, but with curiosity. Sleep, for instance. While you sleep, your immune system reviews the day. It recalibrates. It clears inflammatory signals. It reduces levels of IL-6 and CRP, key markers of inflammation. People who are sleep-deprived, even for a single night, show elevated inflammatory responses. The body reads poor sleep as a threat, and the immune system responds accordingly. So rest is not just recovery. It is immune instruction. Nutrition, too, plays a central role. Diets high in processed foods, sugars, and unhealthy fats can push the body into a low-grade inflammatory state. Not dramatically, not suddenly, but steadily. By contrast, diets rich in antioxidants, fiber, and healthy fats, like those found in fruits, vegetables, legumes, olive oil, and fish, provide the building blocks for pro-resolving mediators. They don't just feed you. They feed the peacekeepers of your immune system. Even the microbiome, the vast collection of bacteria in your gut, affects inflammation. A diverse, balanced microbiome produces compounds like short-chain fatty acids that regulate immune cells, protect the gut lining, and lower systemic inflammation. But when that microbiome is disrupted by antibiotics, stress, poor diet, the gut becomes more permeable. Particles enter the bloodstream, and the immune system is alerted unnecessarily. It reacts, inflames, and begins a cycle that's hard to break. So even your gut bacteria are part of the symphony. And when they're in tune, the whole system plays more gently. Let's not forget movement. Not extreme, not punishing, just gentle, regular movement. Walking, stretching, dancing, flowing. Physical activity increases the circulation of immune cells. It helps clear inflammatory signals. It improves sleep. It enhances mood. It tells the immune system, this body is being cared for. You can stand down. Even laughter, connection, kindness, sunlight on skin. They all speak softly to the immune system. They tell it that life is safe, that it doesn't have to be on edge. Because the immune system is not separate from you. It is you, listening to every part of your experience, reacting to joy, to sorrow, to fear, to rest. It's not just cells and signals. It's your inner world, made visible. And it wants one thing above all, to keep you whole. So the next time you feel overwhelmed, or inflamed, or out of balance, remember this. Your immune system is always listening. And sometimes, what it needs most is not a stronger response, but a softer one. Some people feel everything deeply. A glance, a word, a change in light, a shift in the room. The world leaves fingerprints on them that don't easily fade. And sometimes, their bodies feel deeply too. There is a kind of immune system that mirrors this sensitivity. It listens to the smallest shifts. It responds with passion. It remembers with intensity. This is not a weakness. It's a different kind of tuning. A system that's alert to whispers as much as shouts. But like all sensitivity, it needs balance. Without it, the immune system begins to misread the environment. And things that are neutral, or even kind, begin to feel like threats. The result can be immune reactivity that's out of proportion. Chronic inflammation, autoimmune flare-ups, fatigue, anxiety. When you're under emotional stress, your brain tells your adrenal glands to release cortisol. We've seen how that can modulate inflammation. But it's more than that. Your thoughts, your fears, your hopes, your stories can influence your immune state. In one study, even recalling a painful memory raised levels of inflammatory cytokines in the blood. And in another, simply imagining a supportive social interaction lowered them. This is not to say your thoughts cause disease, but they shape your biology. Your nervous system and your immune system are not in separate rooms. They are old friends, or perhaps lovers, intertwined, constantly listening to each other's music. Your sadness may echo in your white blood cells. Your laughter may soften a swelling in your gut. Your loneliness may change the way antibodies are made. And when we ignore this connection, we miss one of the deepest truths of health. That healing doesn't always begin with medicine. Sometimes, it begins with a moment of safety. A deep breath. A hand held. A sense that the world is not against you. Because when you feel safe, your immune system feels safe, too. And that changes everything. It quiets the cytokines. It reduces the alarms. It restores balance to the flame. Your immune system is not just a protector. It is a mirror. It reflects your environment, your experiences, your relationships, your inner world. This is why trauma, old or new, can show up as inflammation. Why emotional wounds can echo in the body for years. And it's why healing must be gentle, not forced, not rushed, but invited. The body does not respond to anger with peace. It responds to understanding, to rhythm, to time. And so, your immune system, too, must be approached with compassion, not as a broken machine to be fixed, but as a wise system that may be overworking, because it doesn't feel safe enough to rest. You don't need to silence it. You just need to listen. And that's how we close part 4, with a return to listening, to gentleness, to balance. In this quiet space, we've seen how inflammation begins and how it ends. We've explored the difference between acute and chronic response. We've seen the ways in which immunity can become overactive, and the tools your body already holds to bring it back into peace. And now, we prepare to move into the next movement of this symphony. Because the story doesn't end in the body. It continues in the mind. In part 5, we'll gently drift upward into the hidden bridges between brain and immunity. We'll explore the neuroimmune connection, how emotions shape immune signals, how inflammation influences thoughts and mood, and how your mental and physical selves are not separate at all. We'll meet the immune cells that live in the brain. We'll watch memories form under their influence, and we'll see how healing the mind can also heal the body. But for now, rest. You've just taken a long journey through inflammation, the fire that protects and the fire that can burn too long. And now, you understand it a little more. You see the flame, you see the wind, and most importantly, you see the stillness that waits behind it. The immune system never truly sleeps. But tonight, it hums quietly beside you, not with urgency, but with calm. And in that calm, you begin to heal. Your thoughts do not float alone in space. They are not separate from your body. They rise from it. They ripple through it. And the immune system listens to every word. There is no real line between mind and body. Only bridges. Delicate, ancient, alive. And on those bridges, messages pass. Faster than thought. Softer than breath. Let's begin at the source, your brain. Wrapped in bone. Bathed in cerebrospinal fluid. And yet, it is not sealed off from your immune system. In fact, the brain has its own immune cells. They're called microglia, tiny guardians of the central nervous system. For a long time, we thought the brain was immune privileged, that it didn't interact with the immune system the way the rest of the body did. But now we know better. Microglia are always watching, always listening. They sense changes in your brain's chemistry. They prune connections between neurons, and they respond to stress, trauma, infection, and even thought. They don't just protect. They shape the mind itself. When you learn something new, when your brain forms a memory, when a synapse strengthens or fades, microglia are often involved. They're not passive. They sculpt. They edit. They decide what stays and what goes. And when inflammation rises in the body, microglia respond. Let's say you catch a virus. Even if it never enters your brain, your immune system sends signals throughout the body. Cytokines, hormones, neural messages. Your brain hears them. Your microglia shift. They become more reactive. They begin to release their own cytokines. And your mood may begin to change. You feel tired, withdrawn, less interested in things, more sensitive to pain. This is called sickness behavior. And it's not a flaw. It's your body trying to help. By slowing you down, your brain gives your immune system more energy to work. By pulling you away from others, it protects the tribe from contagion. By making you rest, it allows healing. It's coordinated. It's adaptive. It's old. And it tells us something profound. Your emotions are not just psychological. They're immunological. Now imagine this process lasting not for days, but for years. This is what happens in chronic inflammation. Microglia stay reactive. Cytokines continue to flow. And slowly, quietly, they begin to change the shape of the mind. Memory becomes foggy. Focus blurs. Joy becomes harder to access. Anxiety increases. Depression deepens. This is not weakness. It is biology. It is your immune system affecting your mind. And the path runs both ways. Because just as inflammation can shape emotion, emotion can shape inflammation. When you experience chronic stress, your brain shifts into vigilance. The amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for detecting danger, becomes more active. The hypothalamus signals the adrenal glands. Cortisol rises. Norepinephrine sharpens awareness. The body enters survival mode. For a short time, this is protective. You move faster. Think sharper. Escape danger. But if the stress doesn't end, the body doesn't return to baseline. And this changes your immune landscape. Immune cells become less sensitive to cortisol. Inflammation rises. Microglia stay alert. And you enter a loop. A biological echo chamber. Where stress creates inflammation. And inflammation deepens stress. It is not just in your head. It is in your entire being. This is one reason why trauma leaves such deep marks. Not just in memory, but in immunity. People with a history of early life trauma often show signs of heightened inflammation, altered cortisol rhythms, and increased risk of autoimmune conditions later in life. The body remembers, not with thoughts, but with chemistry. And yet, there is hope woven through this story. Because the brain and immune system don't just share damage. They also share healing. When you feel safe, your amygdala quiets. Your vagus nerve activates. Inflammatory signals fall. Microglia return to rest. And the immune system, like a soothed child, releases its grip. This is why therapies that focus on emotion, on connection, on safety, can change your physical health. Not by magic, but by communication. Remember those bridges? They go both ways. When you feel love, your brain releases oxytocin, a hormone that reduces inflammation. When you sleep deeply, your brain clears out immune debris through the glymphatic system, a nightly wash cycle that keeps microglia healthy. When you meditate, you lower your heart rate, calm your nervous system, and signal the immune system to slow down. Your thoughts become medicine, not all at once, not with force, but with time. This is not to say that emotions replace treatment, but they are part of treatment. They are part of healing. They are part of you. Because you are not just a brain, or a body, or an immune system. You are all of it, intertwined. A single, living melody, composed across systems. And as we move deeper into part 5, we'll see how this melody plays out. In grief, in trauma, in hope, in joy. Because the immune system doesn't just respond to pathogens. It responds to your life. It responds to what you feel. We'll explore the role of the gut-brain immune axis, the emerging science of psychoneuroimmunology, and the ways your inner and outer worlds come together to shape health. Your body is home to more life than you can see. Trillions of microbes live inside you, especially in your gut. They are not invaders. They are residents, ancient partners in the dance of health, and more than just passengers. They are part of your immune system, part of your mind, part of you. Welcome to the gut-brain immune axis, a highway of signals, emotions, and chemicals that flows from your intestines, through your nervous system, into your brain, and back again. It's hard to overstate how important this connection is. Because your gut is not just a tube for digestion. It's a sensory organ, an immune training ground, a mood regulator. It holds more immune cells than any other part of the body. It houses over 70% of your lymphoid tissue. It contains a vast population of neurons. So many, in fact, that it's sometimes called the second brain. And the microbes that live there, your microbiome, are not silent. They produce neurotransmitters like serotonin and GABA. They influence your vagus nerve. They generate metabolites like short-chain fatty acids, which calm inflammation, support the blood-brain barrier, and regulate immune responses. When your microbiome is healthy, your immune system is calibrated. It knows when to respond and when to stand down. But when that ecosystem is disturbed by antibiotics, chronic stress, poor diet, or environmental toxins, the signals change. The gut lining can become more permeable, a phenomenon called leaky gut. Particles slip through into the bloodstream. The immune system takes notice. It responds, inflames, and that inflammation doesn't stay in the gut. It travels. It crosses into the brain. It alters microglia. It shifts mood. It clouds thought, anxiety, depression, brain fog. These aren't just emotional. They're immunological and often microbial. In one study, transferring gut bacteria from anxious mice to calm ones was enough to make the calm mice anxious. In humans, we've seen that those with depression often show altered microbiomes and higher levels of inflammatory cytokines in the blood. It's not a matter of willpower. It's chemistry. Your gut is not a place you visit. It's a place that shapes who you are. This is the heart of psychoneuroimmunology, the science of how your mind, your brain, and your immune system are one connected whole. Each influences the other. Each listens to the other. Each tells stories that shape your biology. When you experience chronic stress, your gut bacteria shift. When your gut bacteria shift, your brain chemicals change. When your brain chemicals change, your immune response adjusts. And that immune response feeds back into the brain and gut again. It's a circle, not a cycle of illness, but a chance for restoration. Because just as disconnection creates imbalance, connection creates healing. And it starts with listening, not just to symptoms, but to signals. Your body is always speaking. And when we slow down, we can begin to understand its language. The feeling of unease in your belly might be a microbial whisper, the tension behind your eyes, a signal from inflamed glial cells, the fog in your thoughts, a conversation between cytokines and neurons. None of this is random. None of it is imagined. It's just subtle, like music too soft to hear, until you lean in. And the more you listen, the more you'll notice something else. The immune system is not always asking for action. Sometimes it's asking for stillness, for food that nourishes, for sleep that restores, for friendships that soothe, for moments of meaning that soften the inner noise. And when it receives those things, it responds not with silence, but with harmony. Cytokines drop, neural rhythms stabilize, microglia shift back to their resting form. The immune system remembers what it means to trust. This is not wishful thinking. It is observed biology. And it's why healing is never just about medication, or surgery, or suppression. It's about reconnection. With body, with self, with life. Because the immune system doesn't just fight invaders. It also keeps the story of who you are. It knows the rhythms of your thoughts, the edges of your memories, the weight of your stress, the warmth of your joy. It listens to all of it. And then it decides what is safe, what is dangerous, what is worth responding to. And when your life begins to shift toward peace, your immune system follows. Even now, as you breathe gently, as your nervous system slows, your immune system is listening. It may be calming. It may be healing. It may be remembering a time before the fires burned. We'll explore how trauma reshapes immune patterns, how emotional healing can change chronic illness, and how simple practices, from nature exposure to self-compassion, can guide the immune system back into harmony. Some injuries are visible, a scar, a bruise, a limp that lingers, but others, you cannot see them, yet they live in the rhythm of your breath, the stillness of your gaze, the tension in your shoulders, the fire beneath your skin. This is emotional injury, and the immune system remembers it, not in words, but in signals, not in story, but in chemistry. Trauma is not just an event. It's what happens inside you, in response to what happened outside you, and the immune system feels it. When a person experiences trauma, whether in childhood or adulthood, the body shifts into protection mode. Stress hormones rise. The amygdala, your fear center, becomes hyperactive. The vagus nerve goes quiet, and the immune system turns alert. Even after the trauma ends, this alertness can remain. Your immune cells become primed, ready to respond more quickly, more aggressively, to even mild triggers. Microglia in the brain become sensitized. Inflammatory cytokines stay elevated, and a state of chronic, low-grade inflammation settles in. It's as if the body never quite got the signal that the danger was over. And this changes everything. It affects mood, energy, sleep, digestion, even immunity against real threats. The system that once defended you now lives in a state of constant tension. But here's something even more remarkable. This immune imprint can begin early. Children who experience trauma, abuse, neglect, loss, often show signs of immune dysregulation later in life. They're more likely to develop autoimmune diseases, chronic inflammation, and higher sensitivity to infection. The body carries stories, even the ones you don't consciously remember. But there's a gentle truth woven into this science. What the immune system learns, it can also unlearn. This is the essence of neuroplasticity and immune adaptability. The immune system is not frozen. It changes with experience. And just as trauma can program it toward fear, safety can reprogram it toward calm. That safety doesn't have to be big or dramatic. It can come in quiet moments. A walk beneath trees, the sound of rain on the window, the warmth of a friend's voice, a moment where you feel seen, a breath that feels easy. These moments are medicine. They activate the parasympathetic nervous system, the part of you that says, "It's okay now." When that system turns on, the vagus nerve sends signals to the immune system. Inflammation decreases. Cortisol normalizes. Microglia settle down. And the body shifts from survival into repair. Let's explore a few of these gentle medicines. Nature, for instance. Just spending time in a green space. A park, a forest, even a balcony with plants, has been shown to lower inflammation. Studies reveal lower levels of C-reactive protein, CRP, and improved immune cell function after even short exposure to natural environments. This isn't imagination. It's communication. The colors, the air, the sounds. They speak to your nervous system. And the message is clear. You're not alone. You are part of something larger. You can rest. Music is another bridge. Certain rhythms and harmonies activate brain regions tied to emotion, memory, and regulation. They increase dopamine. They lower cortisol. They synchronize neural patterns. And those patterns ripple outward, to the heart, the breath, the immune system. One song, one melody, can shift the entire internal weather. Laughter, too, lowers pro-inflammatory cytokines, boosts natural killer cell activity, and increases endorphins, natural pain relievers. It may be the immune system's favorite kind of joy. When the immune system becomes imbalanced, life itself can begin to feel unfamiliar. Your energy dips, your memory stutters, your body aches, but there's no visible wound. And slowly, your sense of self begins to shift. This is what many people with chronic illness describe. Not just pain, but disorientation. Who am I when I can no longer rely on my body? Who am I when my thoughts are fogged by inflammation? Who am I when each day is a quiet battle no one else sees? The immune system does not just defend the body. It shapes the experience of being in that body. And when it stays on too long, or turns against you, it can erode the boundary between health and identity. But even here, in this tender, difficult place, healing is possible, not always a cure, but healing in the truest sense. A return to wholeness, to meaning, to self. And this healing often begins in an unexpected place. Purpose. Studies have shown that people who report a strong sense of purpose in life have lower levels of inflammatory markers. Even when facing adversity, their immune systems are more balanced, more resilient. How does that happen? It begins in the brain. When you feel purposeful, even in small ways, you activate reward circuits. You increase dopamine. You reduce stress signaling. You change the flow of immune messages through the vagus nerve. The body listens. The immune system softens. The inflammation recedes, even a little. And this becomes a new rhythm. A loop not of illness, but of restoration. Purpose doesn't have to be grand. It can be quiet. Tending a plant. Writing a single page. Being kind to a stranger. Caring for someone you love. Then there is the power of touch. A hug. A hand on the shoulder. Even holding your own face gently in your hands. Touch releases oxytocin. Oxytocin lowers inflammation. It increases the sense of safety. It tells the immune system, you are held. You don't need to fight. And perhaps most overlooked of all, self-compassion. Not self-esteem. Not motivation. Just the quiet voice inside that says, it's okay to feel what you feel. People who practice self-compassion show lower levels of inflammatory markers, even under stress. They bounce back faster. Their vagus nerve stays engaged. Their immune systems recover more quickly. Because when you're kind to yourself, your body hears it. Your immune system hears it. And it responds. Not with more fight, but with peace. This is the quiet revolution in how we think about health. Not as war. Not as control. But as relationship. A relationship between body and mind. Between past and present. Between cells and stories. And in that relationship, there is room for healing. Even from the deepest wounds. We'll explore how chronic illness reshapes identity. How the immune system responds to purpose and meaning. And how belief, hope, and emotional resilience can shift immune outcomes. It's not about achievement. It's about alignment. Feeling like your life still has threads of meaning, even in the midst of struggle. And meaning itself can be medicine. In patients recovering from cancer, those who report more emotional meaning in their experiences often show faster immune recovery. Their T cells rebound more quickly. Their inflammation clears more efficiently. This is not fantasy. It's the immune system responding to the emotional environment of the body. Because your thoughts are not silent. They're made of molecules. And those molecules ripple through your immune system. Like music through a hall. Even belief, that soft, private sense that things might get better, has an immune signature. Hopeful people tend to show stronger vaccine responses, lower baseline inflammation, and quicker wound healing. Not because they ignore pain, but because they stay connected to the possibility of change. And that connection shapes the immune landscape. Because hope calms the nervous system. It brings safety, and safety changes everything. Your white blood cells aren't just reacting to viruses or bacteria. They're also responding to the tone of your life, to whether you feel isolated, or held, ignored, or seen, overwhelmed, or grounded. Even in darkness, a single point of connection, a moment of meaning, can help shift the immune system toward balance. And when that happens, healing begins at levels too small to measure, but not too small to feel. You might sleep more deeply, digest more easily, feel pain with less sharpness, wake with a little more energy. These are signs, not of perfection, but of harmony returning. Because healing is not always about stopping the storm. Sometimes, it's about learning to move with it, to breathe through it, to rest when you can, to trust that even now, your body is listening. And it is. Right now, as you listen to these words, your immune system is adapting, calming, learning, becoming more aligned with your inner world. You are not broken. You are in conversation. Your thoughts matter. Your emotions matter. Your story matters. And your immune system knows it. As we close this part of the journey, we leave with a deeper understanding that emotions are not separate from immunity, that thoughts can soften inflammation, that your internal world shapes your cellular one, You are not a mind carried by a body. You are not a body controlled by a brain. You are one living organism, listening inward, responding outward, always changing, always trying to heal. In part 6, our final chapter, we'll bring it all together. A gentle, sweeping view of the immune symphony as a whole. We'll revisit the players, the rhythms, the language of danger and peace. And we'll end with a quiet meditation on what it means to live in partnership with your immune system. But for now, rest. You've listened deeply. You've traveled far within. And your immune system, so often overlooked, is humming quietly beside you, listening, responding, remembering, not just to pathogens, but to you. Every day, without your awareness, your body performs a symphony, not of music, but of life. A quiet orchestra playing in the background, listening, responding, adapting. Cells move like strings of a violin. Cytokines rise like woodwinds in a swell. The heartbeat drums steady. The breath keeps tempo. And the immune system, always alert, always humming, guides the melody forward. You don't hear it, but you feel it. In the way you wake without illness. In the way a scratch becomes a scar. In the calm that follows fever. In the breath that deepens after rest. This is the immune symphony. And now, after this long journey, you begin to recognize the parts. The innate immune system, always the first to arrive. Like percussion, quick, rhythmic, unspecific. It doesn't wait for instructions. It just plays. Fast, fierce, bold. Neutrophils, macrophages, natural killer cells. These are your emergency responders. Acting within minutes, burning bright, then stepping back, and then enter the adaptive players, the violins and cellos. More precise, more emotional. T cells and B cells, slow to arrive, but deeply trained. They don't just respond. They remember. They carry echoes of every pathogen you've faced. Each memory written in proteins, stored in lymph nodes, ready to rise again if needed. And between these sections, communication flows. Cytokines, chemical messengers, send notes between instruments. Hormones like cortisol adjust the pace. The nervous system tunes the environment. It's not just a reaction, it's orchestration. And like any great music, it requires balance. Because too much intensity, and the melody becomes noise. Too much suppression, and the sound fades into silence. So the immune system does what few systems can do. It learns. It remembers. It adjusts. It is your oldest intelligence. Not logical, but wise. It knows when to fight, and when to forgive, when to burn, and when to rebuild. And most of the time, it does all of this without your awareness. That's the most humbling part of it all. You don't have to think about it. It's already thinking about you. But now that you do know, what do you do with that knowledge? You don't need to control the symphony. That's not your job. But you can support it. You can care for the players. You can tune the environment. You can create a life where the immune system feels safe. Because safety is the foundation of good immunity. And that safety starts in the everyday moments. The ones that seem too small to matter, but matter more than anything. It starts with sleep. The nightly rehearsal where your immune system reviews the day. During sleep, cytokines rise and fall in rhythm. Inflammation is resolved. Immune memories are refined. The brain is cleaned. Without sleep, the music becomes dissonant. Immune timing falters. Mistakes increase. The body stays inflamed. So sleep isn't laziness. It's maintenance. Then there is nutrition, the fuel for every instrument. Your immune cells rely on vitamins, minerals, fats, and amino acids to communicate, to move, to function. A diet rich in variety, colorful fruits and vegetables, legumes, whole grains, healthy fats, feeds not just you, but the immune system. It creates resilience. On the other hand, diets high in processed sugars, excess omega-6 fats, and artificial additives send conflicting signals. They push the immune system into chronic alert, like playing every instrument at full volume, all the time. That's not music. It's noise. Then there is movement. not for punishment, but for flow. Gentle, regular movement helps lymph circulate, supports the gut, calms the mind, and resets inflammatory balance. A short walk, a stretch, a moment of dancing. These are not distractions. They are tuning. And don't forget sunlight. Exposure to sunlight, even for a few minutes a day, regulates your circadian rhythm, supports vitamin D production, and enhances immune communication. It's as if your immune system opens its eyes when the sun touches your skin. And then, maybe most important of all, is your emotional environment. Your immune system does not exist in isolation. It listens to your relationships, your stress, your joy, your grief. It responds to your sense of meaning, your sense of connection, your moments of peace. So every time you slow down, every time you offer yourself compassion, every time you choose rest over rush, you're not just relaxing, you're healing. You're inviting your immune system to play more softly, more clearly, more in tune. You're helping it return to harmony. We'll explore what immune balance really looks like day to day, how oversanitization and overstimulation challenge it, and how simple rituals like touch, breath, stillness can restore this quiet partnership inside you. Balance is not silence. It's not the absence of activity. It's the right response at the right time. And for the immune system, balance is everything. It must respond to threats quickly, but also know when to stop. It must defend the body, but never turn against it. It must be vigilant, but not afraid. But in modern life, this balance is often disturbed, not because your body is broken, but because the world around you is loud, too fast, too constant. Let's begin with the most subtle form of overstimulation. Sanitization. Cleanliness is important, yes. It protects us from dangerous infections. But when taken too far, it can backfire. Your immune system needs exposure to the world. In order to train, it needs to meet friendly microbes, mild irritants, bits of nature, so it can learn what's safe. In childhood, this training is essential. Kids who grow up in overly sterile environments, or with little outdoor exposure, often have higher rates of allergies, asthma, and autoimmune conditions. This is called the hygiene hypothesis, and it's been supported by decades of research. The immune system is like a young animal. It needs to be socialized. And in adulthood, we still benefit from this quiet contact with nature. So don't be afraid of a little dirt, a little dust. The world is not sterile, and neither are you. Now consider another form of overstimulation. Chronic alertness, notifications, news cycles, noise, stress, performance, deadlines, more, always more. This constant input keeps the nervous system on edge. And when the nervous system is tense, the immune system follows. You begin to produce more inflammatory cytokines. Even when there's no infection, you may feel tired, but wired, foggy, but overstimulated. Your body is trying to protect you from what it thinks is a threat, but there is no threat, only overload. So the music becomes distorted. Every cell starts to play too loudly. The melody is lost. And here's the quiet truth. Rest is not weakness. It is the recalibration of your symphony. Let's look at a few ways to invite rest and realignment. Start with breath. Deep, slow breathing activates your vagus nerve, the main line of communication between your brain and your immune system. When you inhale slowly and exhale even slower, you send a message. We are safe now. That message echoes through your body. It softens inflammation. It slows the heart. It brings immune cells back into rhythm. Even just 3 to 5 minutes of intentional breathing each day can begin to shift the internal music. Then there's stillness. We're not used to it anymore. We fill every moment. But stillness, not sleep, not distraction, but quiet wakefulness, is powerful. It allows the nervous system to downshift. It allows immune energy to move away from defense and toward restoration. This stillness might look like sitting with a warm drink, looking at trees sway outside the window, listening to soft music with no task attached, letting your mind wander without judgment. In those moments, the immune system rests. It breathes. It listens. Another form of realignment is touch. Human touch is one of the oldest signals of safety. It raises oxytocin, lowers cortisol, modulates immune activity. Even self-touch, placing a hand over your heart, or cradling your own face, can offer this same biochemical shift. The immune system doesn't care if it's a grand gesture. It cares if it feels safe. You can also support your immune balance through ritual. Rituals give your body a sense of predictability, and predictability calms the immune response. Ritual might mean waking up and drinking water in silence, lighting a candle before bed, taking a short walk after dinner, reading the same few pages of a book each night. These actions are not dramatic. They are grounding. And when the body feels grounded, it doesn't reach for its defenses. It plays softly, clearly, in tune. Finally, there is trust. Not in perfection, not in control, but in the intelligence of your body. The immune system doesn't need to be micromanaged. It needs to be supported, trusted, given the right conditions to work well. And often, it's not more effort that helps, but less. Less fighting, less forcing, less fear. The immune system thrives in peace, and it remembers peace, even after years of imbalance, of chronic stress, of illness or exhaustion. It can return to harmony. That's what makes it so extraordinary. It doesn't give up. It adapts. And it is always, quietly, trying to bring you back to center. In the final section of Part 6, we'll reflect on this full journey, the immune system's wisdom, its mysteries, its memory, and its music. You have come far, through cells and signals, through battlefields and bridges, through fever and rest, memory and mystery. And now here we are, at the quiet edge of understanding. Your immune system is not a machine. It is a living memory, a biological mind of its own, formed by experience, trained by time, always learning, always adapting. It remembers your illnesses. It remembers your traumas. It remembers your healing. It remembers what made you hurt and what helped you return. From the moment you entered this world, your immune system began composing its own story. It learned from breast milk, from the air you breathed, from scraped knees and sniffles, from heartbreaks and hugs, and every lesson shaped it. It's easy to forget that this system, this quiet orchestra inside you, is not just fighting off danger. It's learning what it means to be you, not for punishment, but for flow. Gentle, regular movement helps lymph circulate, supports the gut, calms the mind, and resets inflammatory balance. A short walk, a stretch, a moment of dancing. These are not distractions. They are tuning. And don't forget sunlight. Exposure to sunlight, even for a few minutes a day, regulates your circadian rhythm, supports vitamin D production, and enhances immune communication. It's as if your immune system opens its eyes when the sun touches your skin. And then, maybe most important of all, is your emotional environment. Your immune system does not exist in isolation. It listens to your relationships, your stress, your joy, your grief. It responds to your sense of meaning, your sense of connection, your moments of peace. So every time you slow down, every time you offer yourself compassion, every time you choose rest over rush, you're not just relaxing, you're healing. You're inviting your immune system to play more softly, more clearly, more in tune. You're helping it return to harmony. We'll explore what immune balance really looks like day to day, how oversanitization and overstimulation challenge it, and how simple rituals like touch, breath, stillness can restore this quiet partnership inside you. Balance is not silence. It's not the absence of activity. It's the right response at the right time. And for the immune system, balance is everything. It must respond to threats quickly, but also know when to stop. It must defend the body, but never turn against it. It must be vigilant, but not afraid. But in modern life, this balance is often disturbed, not because your body is broken, but because the world around you is loud, too fast, Too constant. Let's begin with the most subtle form of overstimulation. Sanitization. Cleanliness is important, yes. It protects us from dangerous infections. But when taken too far, it can backfire. Your immune system needs exposure to the world. In order to train, it needs to meet friendly microbes, mild irritants, bits of nature, so it can learn what's safe. In childhood, this training is essential. Kids who grow up in overly sterile environments, or with little outdoor exposure, often have higher rates of allergies, asthma, and autoimmune conditions. This is called the hygiene hypothesis, and it's been supported by decades of research. The immune system is like a young animal. It needs to be socialized. And in adulthood, we still benefit from this quiet contact with nature. So don't be afraid of a little dirt, a little dust. The world is not sterile, and neither are you. Now consider another form of overstimulation. Chronic alertness, notifications, news cycles, noise, stress, performance, deadlines, more, always more. This constant input keeps the nervous system on edge. And when the nervous system is tense, the immune system follows. You begin to produce more inflammatory cytokines. Even when there's no infection, you may feel tired, but wired, foggy, but overstimulated. Your body is trying to protect you from what it thinks is a threat. But there is no threat, only overload. So the music becomes distorted. Every cell starts to play too loudly. The melody is lost. And here's the quiet truth. Rest is not weakness. It is the recalibration of your symphony. Let's look at a few ways to invite rest and realignment. Start with breath. Deep, slow breathing activates your vagus nerve, the main line of communication between your brain and your immune system. When you inhale slowly and exhale even slower, you send a message. We are safe now. That message echoes through your body. It softens inflammation. It slows the heart. It brings immune cells back into rhythm. Even just 3 to 5 minutes of intentional breathing each day can begin to shift the internal music. Then there's stillness. We're not used to it anymore. We fill every moment. But stillness, not sleep, not distraction, but quiet wakefulness, is powerful. It allows the nervous system to downshift. It allows immune energy to move away from defense and toward restoration. This stillness might look like sitting with a warm drink, looking at trees sway outside the window, listening to soft music with no task attached, letting your mind wander without judgment. In those moments, the immune system rests. It breathes. It listens. Another form of realignment is touch. Human touch is one of the oldest signals of safety. It raises oxytocin, lowers cortisol, modulates immune activity. Even self-touch, placing a hand over your heart, or cradling your own face, can offer this same biochemical shift. The immune system doesn't care if it's a grand gesture. It cares if it feels safe. You can also support your immune balance through ritual. Rituals give your body a sense of predictability, and predictability calms the immune response. Ritual might mean waking up and drinking water in silence, lighting a candle before bed, taking a short walk after dinner, reading the same few pages of a book each night. These actions are not dramatic. They are grounding. And when the body feels grounded, it doesn't reach for its defenses. It plays softly, clearly, in tune. Finally, there is trust, not in perfection, not in control, but in the intelligence of your body. The immune system doesn't need to be micromanaged. It needs to be supported, trusted, given the right conditions to work well. And often, it's not more effort that helps, but less fighting, less forcing, less fear. The immune system thrives in peace, and it remembers peace, even after years of imbalance, of chronic stress, of illness or exhaustion. It can return to harmony. That's what makes it so extraordinary. It doesn't give up. It adapts. And it is always, quietly, trying to bring you back to center. In the final section of Part 6, we'll reflect on this full journey, the immune system's wisdom, its mysteries, It's memory. And it's music. You have come far. Through cells and signals. Through battlefields and bridges. Through fever and rest, memory and mystery. And now here we are, at the quiet edge of understanding. Your immune system is not a machine. It is a living memory, a biological mind of its own, formed by experience, trained by time, always learning, always adapting. It remembers your illnesses. It remembers your traumas. It remembers your healing. It remembers what made you hurt and what helped you return. From the moment you entered this world, your immune system began composing its own story. It learned from breast milk, from the air you breathed, from scraped knees and sniffles, from heartbreaks and hugs, and every lesson shaped it. It's easy to forget that this system, this quiet orchestra inside you, is not just fighting off danger. It's learning what it means to be you.